Hey, welcome back. Thanks for checking in again on my programming journey. CheTranqui here, and this is episode 2. We're going to take a look today at the estate management program that I showed you guys a little bit of last time around. It was a pretty fledgling form, and honestly it still is, but I've been working my tail off and have accomplished some pretty cool things. So I wanted to share those with you. The two things are how to clone a an HTML object using JavaScript, and then how to get that put into your HTML web page. And then on the back side of that, how to sort an array so that when it's presented, it can be presented in a sorted fashion. So yeah, let's dive on in and take a look, and I'll share with you some of the things that didn't quite go right. What you see before you right now is actually the contacts page of the estate management stuff. So we've got a number of contacts here, and they're all organized by name, right? Aragorn, Burton, Homer, and I have a add new contact button that when you click it, it shows you a blank form that you can fill out. And once you fill it out, we're going to make this guy AAA. He's not going to have any info. And I save the contact. It'll give me a note that it's saved, and it should have put AAA at the top, but it didn't because it's all lowercase. So let me make that all uppercase, and let's see if it goes right to the top, because lowercase a comes after uppercase Z, apparently. Kind of odd. Nonetheless, so yeah, as you can see, it sorts things and just presents it back. So let's take a look at the code that makes this happen. I'm using the variable form clone. Form clone then is equal to document.getElementById, and I'm using the contact display item to get as the element that I'm getting. That contact display item is specifically a li element on the contact display list. So there's an unordered list here in current contacts. There's an unordered list. And each one of these things is an li element. And that li has a form on it, which is my contact display form. And that contact display form has an ID. So this ID is, for the most part, contact display 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I cloned this item and did so using .clone node true. And then I also gave it a contact ID, gave each one a unique ID, and this is going to be the length of my contacts minus 1, and so that it's like literally going to be the very last element in my contacts. That's because I just here populated my contacts by doing a push, and I put this object into the very end of my contacts. So this allows me to gather the key for that item, for that object. And then I make that a string, and then that string gets added, that number string basically, gets added to contact display. So contact display is 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. That becomes the form clone ID. So that's the ID of the li that I'm about to insert. And then we work through first child or child nodes, next element sibling, to find out exactly where each of these fields are, and add event listeners for saving and deleting the contacts. And then this is the part that I didn't do at first, which I'm doing now. formClone.style.display equals block. And that is because on the original contact display item, I have a contact display set for none. So that's hidden. This item right here, this contact display item, the one that I'm cloning, is always going to be empty, and it's always going to remain hidden. So having that display none keeps it out of the sight of the end user, and it allows it to remain empty so I can continue to clone it and not have to worry about any legacy information being included in a brand new contact that it shouldn't have been included on. But to make it display here, formClone.style.display equals block. And then we find the element that we want to append this particular li to, so the ul, which is called contact display list, and append child form clone. And that puts that form clone right in there. adding to the list. And that's how we got this list of about 6 contacts here. Each one just gets chucked in at the bottom, basically. But in this case, it's not fully at the bottom. Reason being, I have 2 things happening here, which are update contacts, and that just updates the actual like saved information, the my contacts and the local storage. Sort display though is the other new thing. That's sorting an array. So let's take a look at that. Every time that I create the contacts list, I sort the array. And every time it gets updated, whether it's a save, a delete, whatever it might be, we're recreating the contacts list. We're deleting the list and recreating it. I know that's probably a little excessive, but for now, the simplicity helps. So sorting the array, it's nothing more than array.sort. And it's an A-B comparison. This comparison is right now just comparing a name to a name, and it returns a 1 if A.name is greater than B.name. Otherwise, it returns a -1. That's it, and that actually sorts it all alphabetically. It's surprisingly simple. But yeah, once we get that done, we're set, and it all comes in alphabetically, as you already saw. It gets complex when you look at what I had to do on the home screen. This is the task list itself. So I've got statuses, pending, due, and completed, and then I have dates for each of these events, and of course names. Well, these names are like the names of tasks, right? So first of all, I had to figure out how to save stuff by ID. I was originally saving it by the value of the name, and that didn't work out very well for me. So using that hidden LI, with the display none, allowed me to keep the ID of that element the same all the way through, and keep the fields empty the same all the way through, which allows me to just continuously clone it and give my clones unique IDs, and those IDs can then be tracked back to the key of that particular array object within the array. There you go. And so by using that little abstraction, so that I'm messing with the key rather than with any of the information of the object, that metadata is basically what it comes down to. That let me not iterate in order to save a contact, so that's cool, saves those few CPU cycles. But it also allows me to update the name, and that was critical to making this task list work, since the name was the task, and you should be able to update what task was required for that particular task. So yeah, that was a huge deal, and basically all it was taking that ID that I generated before and parsing an int out of it by using contact form ID.substring. Substring basically starts picking up the characters at, in this case, character number 14. So we'll count over from 0 through 13, and it'll pick up number 14. And anything after 14 in this case. So that ends up being the ID, and that ID is the key inside my object, and allows me to save stuff well. So that was the last critical piece that I needed. That said, working with the task manager here gave me an interesting sort experience. So I have it sorted by status first, and then I did that by saying if the status of A and B are equal, then return the following. If the date is greater in A than B, return a 1. Otherwise, if they're both equal, then check the names, and if A is greater than B, return a 1. Otherwise, return a -1. And if neither of those are true, if A is not greater than B and they are not equal, then return a -1. And then we went on to check with pending status, and it went on to check with due status and completed status. And all told, that allows me to look into the actual objects themselves and say, I can change this to pending, and Dave should go after George before and after Annie. He should say exactly where he's going to be. Yep. And then if I set this to 10, the 10th, he should go up above George, because 10th and 10th means that it was sorted by name. And if I set this to completed, then he's completed, but he's the first one completed because that was on that date. So yeah, that was a really cool way. So sorting being the array.sort, IDs. Use the ID field of the HTML and tie that to your key. I'm curious about this one. If you have comments about it, please add them below, because I'm wondering about a security breach, potential security breach as a result of using the key in the HTML at all. So sound off. Let me know what a simple way to correct that is and work around that might be. Also, I want to give a huge shout out to a gentleman on YouTube here. He is Flavio, and I'll leave a link to his stuff below, but he has an awesome video about sorting and how to get those returns and make it as concise as possible and stuff. It was a great video. Literally took me about 40 seconds, and I came to understand this function very well. So check that out below. Thank you for checking in with me. This is an exciting week for me. I made a lot of progress figuring out how to effectively save, effectively delete, and update dynamically the list to create this by cloning stuff, and it's been exciting. I've learned a ton and accomplished a ton too. And I can only imagine the next couple weeks will probably contain a lot more of the same. So stick around, and I'll see you next week.